Hey everyone, what's up? Lex and Latasha here for Married Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing Death Note from Netflix.
All the people that make life miserable, make life dangerous. What if we can change things? The human whose name is written in this note shall die.
So this is kind of an adaptation of the manga series, which was also adapted to an anime and also films in Japan. It's been redone several times over again. And this one is really redone. Like, I don't even know if I'd call it an adaptation as much as I call it an all-out remake. So you and I both read the manga series, and I think we both enjoyed it quite a bit. What did you think of Netflix's attempt at adapting it for the U.S. audience?
There were a lot of things that I was a little bit annoyed with, having read the original. Is it even the original? Is the manga the original?
Yeah.
Okay, so having read the original, I agree. This is not an adaptation. It's using similar characters.
So many things are different
stories,
about this. Yeah.
But it's not.
There are characters that have the same names.
And that's it.
So the big issue with this, and I don't want to get too far into it, but the big issue with this is that a lot of this takes place in Japan. Not all of it, but a lot of it takes place in Japan in the manga series. And
Which is a big part of it.
right. And the main character, Light, is Japanese. In this, it all takes place in Seattle, and the main character is Caucasian. So,
Which I'm not too upset with that in the sense of, like, okay, whatever, make it Americanized if you want, but everything else about it was weird.
it takes a lot of liberties. So, here's my thing. Here's my quick review of it, and we'll get deep into this thing, but I want to, if you're just popping in to get a quick reaction, if you've read the manga or watched the anime or even seen the movies from Japan, you're going to have a lot of issues with this. You're going to be questioning, why is this like this and why is that like that? The whole entire movie. So if you've seen it before, you can watch it. Just go in knowing that it's not the same thing. It's just kind of like if somebody were to take that idea and also take the font of the Death Note and take Ryuk, who is a great character, and say, you know, I like that and that and that, but everything else I'm pretty much going to change. It's almost to that point.
Yeah. There were so many things that I have a really bad habit of saying things out loud when I'm watching a movie that I don't like or questioning why they did it like that. And I'm pretty proud of myself because I think I did pretty well this time of keeping it mostly reined in.
She did.
But there were, within the first 5 minutes, I had like, nope.
Yeah. So what was your main issue with the film? Not looking at it as, you know, the manga, just looking at it as a new film. You pretend
if I
you've
knew
never
nothing
seen it.
about the manga, if I knew nothing, it was fine. There was no major issues with it. I enjoyed it for what it is, a movie. But having read the original material,
I did have some issues with it, even separating it.
Okay.
My main issue is that the characters, the way that they're set up, is really rushed into.
I mean, I would totally prefer, if we're talking in that regard, this would have been better as a miniseries. Even if it was only like a 4 or 5 episode thing, it would have been better as that than it doesn't even clock in at 2 hours, does it? Like, just shy of?
Right, I think it's an hour and 40 minutes, maybe.
So I feel like they could have done it better justice having it been a miniseries or something. Even a longer movie probably would have been better. Add another hour, they could have fleshed out a lot more.
Yeah, so I don't want to spoil anything, but the end of this movie kind of makes it look like they're going to do another movie.
Yeah.
So it leaves it open-ended, and it feels like this movie was done just to get the source material out of the way, so that they can go on and make their own. Because the manga series is huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of
It's
a lot of them.
It's huge. Like, we have all the books, and they're just like stacked.
How many
end
are
to end.
there?
I think there's
10?
7.
No, I feel
No,
like
there
10.
might be 10, but it's a
There's
lot.
a lot.
I mean, they're pretty thick books as well, and they're really cool books. And I highly recommend go read that series.
I don't even like manga, but I enjoyed it.
Exactly, it's a good story. Not to say that doesn't have its own problems, because it does. It kind of focuses on things for too long.
Yeah.
So I guess in this regard, the way that it keeps it moving in the movie here is nice, because in
it was
the book,
decent pacing, although there were
Right.
some rushed bits.
so
but
okay, so here's a problem and something that's actually good with it, all in one. So in the manga series, Light and L have this battle of wits. So they're almost locked in this chess battle, where L knows that, you know, something's going on with Light, and Light knows that L knows, and so they kind of do this thing where, you know, they talk to each other in a way that they're both conscious of, okay, this is this guy, I know that, but I have to prove it. And that's the huge issue. With this, they don't really go through that.
yeah, there's no indication of like how L came to his conclusions. It's just all of a sudden
Very rushed.
finger pointing, like it was you.
They don't
And
explain
I know it.
Yeah, they don't
It's
explain
like
it at all.
that. I guess that is an issue. That it's like, time out. How'd you get to that point? How'd you get to that conclusion? In the manga, it does take a while to get there, but it also serves a purpose. Whereas you don't get that at all in this film.
So what'd you think of Lakeith Stanfield as L?
I don't recognize him from anything, so I don't know what else, if anything, he's been in. But, I mean, I didn't have issues with him as an actor, but again, the character, it was kind of weird. Of course, they did change nationalities, ethnicities with this character for the film version, but I just feel like the way that he's portrayed in the original versus this, it's almost like two different people. I feel like he was way more neurotic in this.
And that could be because of how it was rushed.
True. But yeah, there were just some like weird quirks that he had that I don't really recall from the manga that was weird, but
Yeah,
I mean, he did
I loved
okay.
him. I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. Because you know that character is so weird in the books.
Yeah.
To get it right on screen, probably near impossible.
Valid point.
But Lakeith here did a fantastic job of getting the idiosyncrasies of L down, the way he sits on chairs and pillows, the way he gobbles up candy. I mean, he did a fantastic job. Where it misses for me is Light. And I didn't think I'd have such a big problem with the whole change in character. But Light is supposed to be this super
very
confident,
intelligent, calm, cool,
Yes.
collected, confident person, and in this,
he's a goober.
he's like an outcast nerd, which there's nothing wrong with that. But he's an outcast. He's kind of nerdy. He writes papers for other people, so they use him to cheat. So I mean that does show the intelligence thing. But in the manga, he's super popular, and
So there's a dynamic in the books with Light and Ryuk. And Ryuk is oftentimes the comedy relief, whereas Light is the straight man to Ryuk's comedy. And Ryuk is funny in this at times, but I feel like that they didn't explore that relationship.
yeah. And I loved that character, Willem Dafoe as the voice.
Did a great job.
Perfect.
Yeah, did a great job.
But he was constantly in shadows. Like I was just waiting for that moment where like his face actually comes into full light and you see him for the first time, because
kept him in
everything
the
is like
shadows,
half
yeah.
shadow, which wasn't bad, but I was the whole time waiting for that moment that I never got, so that was slightly disappointing.
Gotcha.
But
I didn't have a big problem with that. I like that they kind of kept him in the dark because he's more creepy that way. You know, and it's funny because every time in the beginning someone dies from the Death Note, you hear Ryuk laugh. And that is such an enjoyable experience because me being a horror fan, getting to see the gore, and there is a lot of gore in this movie, a lot, like, and really well done
but
too.
yeah, they did it really well.
And you can tell they used a lot of a mix of practical and CGI, but the practical that they did use was really cool. But every time he laughs and it just, I don't know, for me, that was very enjoyable. The way that I see this movie, and this is kind of how I'll wrap up my review, is that I see it as like a B horror movie, like a Final Destination, but it has a better story. The story of the Death Note is very interesting. Whether, you know, it's poorly done, the whole movie's poorly done, it's still an interesting concept.
Do you want to let him in?
They're both in, right here.
Oh.
Oh, one other thing that we really have to talk about is how they changed the character of Misa in the book to this character Mia.
And they included her from the get-go, and that pissed me off. That was my... that's the thing that I was trying so hard to not say, and I kept it in.
And this is part of the thing where we were saying, if you've read the manga, you're going to be like, what is going on? Why is this happening so soon? They completely changed her character, though. In the book, she is an actress who's kind of like a teen idol type of thing. But she's like obsessed with Kira, who is the alias for Light when he uses the Death Note, and she's kind of fanatical about him, do anything for him, that sort of thing. And it really stays that way to the end of the book, from what I remember. Yeah. Again, it was a couple years ago that we read through this, but
has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a couple years now. So that is totally different in the movie. She is a lot more strong-willed. She has her own thoughts and opinions and her own motivations, we'll say. So that was really weird to
it's
kind
almost
of
like
explore.
she was the more dominant personality between the two in this, which, again, is not at all what it's like in the source material. Not at all.
No.
And, yeah, just the way that they went with it was interesting.
Yeah, so they changed a whole bunch of stuff. That's the crux of this whole thing. They changed a whole bunch of stuff. They made it their own, and they're living and dying by that. And I've seen a lot of negative reviews and everything. Standing on its own, if you've never read or seen the source material before,
or heard anything about it,
it's an okay film. It's got good effects. It's got decent sound. The score in some parts is good, in other parts is forgettable. The CGI is good.
I had a problem with some of the music, though. Like, the very first song, when you're seeing the opening, I don't know. Like, some of it felt weird. Like, it didn't
I'm glad
fit.
you mentioned that, because I want to mention this. So I've said a whole bunch that this movie is rushed, right? Yeah. Well, the opening of this film is in slow motion.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was on purpose to say life before the Notebook was slow, life after was this super rush, super fast thing where everything kicks into high gear.
But it was weird.
Yeah. So it was just a really jarring opening, and I can see a lot of people just shutting it off right then and there. I would say stick with it, at least until you get to L, because I think once he comes into frame, things get a lot more interesting, and the fantastic performance as well for L just really boosted it up for me, at least. Alright, it's time to give this thing a rating, and here on Married Reviews, we go out of 5. You can go 0.5 between, but we stick to either a whole number or 0.5 out of 5. So what do you give Death Note from Netflix?
Why do I have to go first? It's hard, because if I'm going based off of my existing knowledge of it and all of that, I'm hovering around a 3. But if I pretend like I know nothing about it and everything, I'd be more closer to the 4.5.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3 out of 5. And the reason why is because I do have to factor in what we do know of the source material. You have to do it. This isn't original. Yeah, this isn't an original thing, so they can't get points off that. There was a lot of potential in this film, and like you said, it should have been a series. Turned out they wanted to make it a film. It doesn't completely die because of that. But it does suffer because of it. But there's a lot of good stuff in this film. Oh man, I don't want to spoil anything, but let me just say the whole Watari thing just was completely wrong, completely off. Ugh. That made me cringe. But
How do you really feel?
there are some really good things in this movie if you stick with it. If you're a fan of horror, you'll find a lot of cool stuff in here. In fact, and in one of the scenes, Mia and Light are in a room watching Phantasm, which is an old horror movie itself, and then it cuts to the news or whatever. So, you know, if you're a horror fan, I think it's more of your thing, and you'll be more okay with it. If you're not, you might not find anything redeeming in this whole thing, other than just the premise, which is a cool premise.
You mentioning certain scenes, there's one particular death you mentioned earlier, this being like a B movie, kind of like Final Destination. There was one death that I feel like was very much pulled straight from Final Destination.
Very much
a
that
series
style.
of events that this happens, that happens, the next thing happens until somebody dies. So that was kind of interesting.
And I wish they would have done more of that.
Yeah.
I wish they would have shown more killings. And I know that sounds
A little bit bad, but
yeah.
that's what the whole thing is. That's what the point of Death Note is it leads to death.
Right, exactly. This thing was pretty gory, a lot gorier than I thought it was going to be, but there was room for a lot more gore and a lot more killings and a lot more horror and stuff like that, and exploring the relationship between Ryuk and Light and all that good stuff. But so it gets a 3 from me. Gets a what?
3.
3 for you.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 5 from both of us. If you've never seen the original stuff, go check it out. It's actually kind of cool in some parts. But if you have seen the original
But
stuff,
I would recommend watch the Netflix movie before you get involved in the original stuff, because otherwise you might hate it.
And obviously, I mean, the books are going to explain a whole lot more, and that's
As books
usually
do.
that's usually. I've got a whole slew of Stephen King books that were all made into movies here, and most of them are panned because they don't even come
Scratch the
close.
surface.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, that's it for our review of Netflix's Death Note. Go ahead and give the video a thumbs up to share it around if you like this review, and we'll be back with more movie reviews within the week, I guess. Yeah, this is gonna fire up pretty quickly here. So, thanks for watching. See you guys later.